Employee or independent contractor? This is, without a doubt, the foundational question in the world of payroll. And, getting it wrong can be a spectacularly costly mistake. If you're studying for the CPP exam, you already know this is a huge topic. So in this explainer, we're going to make sure you absolutely nail it.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we're going to unpack why this classification is such a big deal. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty, the IRS's 3 key tests. Think of this as your compliance toolkit. After that, we'll look at the pretty serious consequences of messing this up, and importantly, how to fix it if it happens. And finally, we'll flip the coin and see how this all looks from the contractor side. So let's start with the big picture. Why does this single decision create such massive ripples across everything a business does, especially in payroll?
Yeah, this isn't just some box to check on a form. You could argue it's the single most critical decision a business makes about its people. I mean, every tax that gets paid, every benefit that's offered, every legal protection that's in place, it all flows from the answer to this one question. And let's be crystal clear. Getting this wrong is a huge liability. The financial penalties, the legal headaches, they can be absolutely devastating for a business. That's precisely why the IRS is all over this, and why you can bet it's going to be a heavy hitter on any certification exam you take. And here it is. It all boils down to this one core principle from the IRS, the right to control. Now, the key word there is right. It's not about whether the business is micromanaging every little detail. It's about whether they have the right to. You've got to keep that phrase, right to control, front and center in your mind, because it is the key that unlocks everything else we're about to talk about. So how in the world does the IRS measure something that sounds as fuzzy as the right to control? Well, it's not a guessing game. They break it down into 3 very specific, evidence-based tests to figure out a worker's real status. For your CPP exam, you absolutely, positively need these 3 burned into your memory: behavioral, financial, and the relationship of the parties. Think of them like the 3 legs of a stool. You have to look at all 3 together to get a stable, accurate picture of the situation. First up, behavioral control. The main question here is, does the company have the right to direct and control how the work actually gets done? If you're giving someone detailed instructions, telling them exactly when and where to work, or requiring specific training, you're leaning way over into employee territory. A contractor, though, they're hired to produce a result, not to have their process managed.
Second, let's talk about the money, financial control. This is all about the business side of the job. Who's buying the tools and supplies? Is the worker getting reimbursed for expenses? See, a true contractor usually has a significant investment in their own equipment and pays their own business expenses. That means they have a real chance for profit or loss.
And third is the relationship of the parties. This one is all about how everyone perceives the arrangement. Is this a long-term, ongoing relationship like you'd expect for an employee who gets benefits like health insurance and pay time off? Or is there a clear finish line, a written contract for a specific project with a specific end date? That's the hallmark of an independent contractor. Okay, so we've looked at the tests. Now, let's really talk about the stakes. What actually happens when a business gets this wrong? Let me tell you, it's not pretty. This right here is the big one. If the IRS decides that a worker you've been treating as a contractor is actually an employee, the business is suddenly on the hook for all the employment taxes it should have been paying all along. And this is where the financial damage just explodes. We're not just talking about the employer's share of FICA and unemployment taxes. Oh no. The business can be held liable for the employee's share of Social Security and Medicare too, and the income tax it should have been withholding. And then, for good measure, they add on penalties and interest. That bill can get astronomical fast. But okay, take a deep breath. It's not always a total disaster. If a company realizes it's made a mistake, the IRS actually provides a way to get back on the right track without facing the absolute worst-case scenario. It's called the Voluntary Classification Settlement Program, or VSCP. This is a super important tool for any payroll pro to know about. It basically allows a business that qualifies to come forward, reclassify their workers, pay a much, much smaller amount in back taxes, and just get a fresh start moving forward. And the process itself is designed to be pretty accessible. A business checks if they're eligible. They apply using a specific form, Form 8952. They sign an agreement with the IRS, and, here's the most important part, they promise to treat those workers as employees from that day on. It's literally a path back to compliance.
So far, we've been looking at this from the business's point of view. But let's quickly flip the script and look at what it means to be a true independent contractor or a self-employed person. It's a whole different ballgame.
So what does self-employed even mean? Well, the definition is actually really broad. It covers your classic independent contractor, sure, but also members of a partnership, and really anyone who is in business for themselves. And that includes part-time gigs or working in the gig economy.
You see, unlike an employee who has taxes nicely withheld from every paycheck, a self-employed person is basically their own payroll department. They're responsible for figuring out and paying their own income taxes and self-employment tax, which, remember, covers both the employee and the employer parts of Social Security and Medicare. And they usually have to do this in quarterly estimated payments throughout the year.
And this slide right here, this is the money shot. It pulls everything we've talked about into one simple, clear chart. Just look at the two columns. On one side, you've got structure, the company providing things, and an ongoing relationship. On the other side, you have autonomy, personal investment, and a project-based focus. This is your ultimate cheat sheet for thinking through worker classification.
So here's the final thought I want to leave you with. Take what you've learned here and actually apply it. When you're back at your desk or as you're studying, think about the people in your own company or your clients who might need a classification review.